Welcome to Becoming the Hero. I'm your host, Justin Lewis, and this is the podcast for self-development for nerds, geeks, and the like. Welcome back, and it's been a while. I just gotta say, I haven't recorded one of these in a while. So if you're tuning in for the first time, or if you are coming back, just a little bit of backstory for you. This podcast, Becoming the Hero, used to be called something else. It was called the Hard Thing Podcast. And actually, if you listen to some of our other episodes, or previous episodes, that's the title that you'll hear. You'll hear Justin Lewis with the Hard Thing Podcast. And yes, I know that the name is kind of strange, to be honest, but frankly, I don't care. The name came from basically a long story. I don't want to bore you with some of the details, but it has a specific meaning, and I chose it for a very specific meaning. I switched to Becoming the Hero because I found that, one, the name didn't really stick. Two, I am, fairly nerdy. I like geeky things. I play Dungeons and Dragons. I actually have a Dungeons and Dragons podcast called How to Be a Better DM. So if you want to check that out, you should, find it wherever podcasts are found, or go to monsters.rent, which is also a company that I run. But I switched because kind of the whole reason why I had started the Hard Thing Podcast was because I felt like all growing up, watching movies, reading books, I felt like I identified more like the side characters of any individual work or creative work rather than the main character, right? I felt like I would identify more like the other characters in the Mos Eisley Cantina rather than Han Solo, Chewbacca, Luke Skywalker, or Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Ooby Dooby, if you've seen that meme or video. It's very funny. But Becoming the Hero, therefore, is then a podcast about taking your life by the horns, I guess you could say. Taking the reins in your own hands, whatever other strange idiom I could use to talk about this. But really, it's about being in control of your life. And that comes with a certain asterisk, you could say, because you can't really necessarily always be in control of your own life. But it's more of doing what you want to do, making the life how you want it to be. So that's what Becoming the Hero is all about. And I also need to say that right now this project is not my top priority. It's more of sort of you could almost call it like a working journal. I'm going to identify maybe mistakes I've made, things I've learned, or some thoughts I've been having about the whole process. And hopefully that helps you. If nothing else, you should feel that you're not alone in your struggles, journeys, desires, hopes, wishes, dreams. You should feel like there are other people on this journey. Also, I am going to be fairly raw and open and honest and unfiltered. I know that that's kind of a buzzword, right? You be your authentic self, which is fine and dandy, but in all honesty, I'm recording this right now driving to work. Kind of a funny situation, actually. Excuse me. So, also, first, I hope you know that I yawn a lot. It's not because I'm not interested in the topic. It's because I don't know why. I've been yawning my entire life. But, so I'm driving to work right now, which is funny because I work remote. So how that happened, my family just moved and the new place doesn't have internet and we still have the old place now. So I'm going back to the old place for internet. And it just kind of goes to show you do what you need to do. So all this is to say, I'm recording this in the car. So you can hear probably the blinker going. I'm at a light. But this will be sort of a journal. And hopefully that inspires you to maybe do something similar. And today, I wanted to talk about something in particular that I think we don't necessarily mention too often in the personal development space, right? And I would call this personal development overwhelm. And I think I sort of was suffering from this a while back. So again, a little bit more backstory. I mean, we love backstory, right? That's why we play RPGs and tabletop role-playing games, which I guess is still an RPG, but the non-video game version of an RPG. Almost a year and a half ago or something like that. No, it was a year and a half ago. I was trying to create this online event where I had a CIA agent, a Navy SEAL, a couple Army Rangers, and there was one other, I don't remember, but they had all agreed to speak at this sort of digital event that I was going to put together. And frankly, I couldn't get any signups. Even if I made it free, I couldn't get anyone to sign up. And that was really disheartening, right? Around the same time, and kind of leading up to that for the last few years, I'd been devouring any personal development podcasts I could, books, things like that. Really trying to do as much as I could. Let me take a quick drink. So, all that is to say, when that happened, I realized that I was confusing intake with output. And that's, I think, part of the overwhelm of personal development. I was consuming as much as I could, podcasts at 2 times the speed, books at 2 times the speed, reading all the time, and, just talking about it with my friends. And, I used to tell people, this is kind of super funny to say, but personal development was one of my hobbies, it's funny on one hand, but it's also not funny on the other hand. It's funny because, for one, when I said personal development, I honestly just meant reading books and listening to podcasts, right? Like, I love to do that, And we all love to do that because it makes you feel good. See, I think we sort of fall into the trap of like the heroic leader speech. In the movies, the speech gives, or the heroic leader gives the speech right before the big battle, right? King, what's his name? Aedan, I think? Aemir from Lord of the Rings. The King of Rohan, he gives this massive speech before they ride into the Battle of Minas Tirith. And I think in life, sometimes we confuse those speeches with actually winning the battle. We feel good during the speech, and we forget that we still have to run into battle and kill the orcs. And this can be very overwhelming because oftentimes the speeches feel so good, we'll listen to them on repeat, or we'll listen to multiple speeches on repeat. It's fun going to motivational speakers and events and listening to their podcasts. It's fun compiling lists of workouts or books to read. It's fun writing New Year's resolutions or goals. It's not so fun charging into battle, facing a horde of angry orcs. It's not so fun going to the gym every morning for 10 years. It's not so fun reading one book and actually trying to change your life based on its principles. It's funny, I had this experience a few weeks ago with my wife. We went to Barnes and Noble's. My wife's not a reader, by the way, and she was looking for a specific book. And I found it very interesting because she couldn't find the specific book, but she started making this large pile of other books she wanted to buy. Now, all honesty, my wife and I are not in a situation where we can just buy a bunch of books. For one, we don't actually have tons of shelves and space for books, which is partly my fault because I do have a lot of books. I used to collect books in the sense of, I want to read that book, I'd buy it, and read it once and then keep it, which may or may not be healthy. Another thing to talk about another day. But also financially, we're kind of broke right now, just frankly. We're not in a great financial situation, which is, again, part of why I'm doing this as sort of maybe a way to keep myself accountable for the things we're doing and the things we're trying. But anyways, so I told her exactly what I'm telling you. It's easy to compile a list of books you want to read. It's much, much harder to make yourself read one book and then use that book to change your life. So with this overwhelm, I would just encourage you, don't try and consume too much, because just like when you eat too much junk food, right? Thinking about that episode of The Office where they're doing the fun run to combat rabies because Michael hit Meredith with his car, and then when she goes to the hospital because she broke her hip, come to find out she may have been at risk of rabies because she got bit by a raccoon from a previous episode. All this is to say, they're doing this 5K to raise money for Meredith and rabies. Michael decides to carbo load with a plate of pasta Alfredo right before the race. And the entire race, he is just dragging. That's exactly what I mean by personal development overwhelm. You have to balance the intake with the output. Otherwise, you're going to run out of energy. You're going to stop, become depressed. And a lot of this really depends on your personal self-awareness. You need to understand yourself, what you're capable of, what you can consume, and what you can output. Now, obviously, we're all trying to push and output more, but I would highly encourage you and myself to temper yourself, and don't get caught up in the marketing of personal development, right? A lot of it is marketing, and if you look behind the scenes, you'll realize that, and you'll learn that. A lot of it is buy my book, buy my course, listen to me talk, so I can prop myself up and basically become a thought leader. Because here's another bonus tip for you: people pay attention before they pay anything else. So if you want to make money, you got to get people to pay attention first. So just wrapping up, final thoughts for today. One, this is the Becoming the Hero podcast, and I hope you can become your own hero. I hope you become someone you are proud of. Two, don't get caught up in the personal development overwhelm. If you can listen to podcasts at 2 times the speed, that's excellent. But make sure you are doing as much in your life as you listen to. Otherwise, you're going to become fat and bloated from a personal development standpoint. You're going to know a lot, not do much, and have a lot of cognitive dissonance. A better way to live, in my opinion, at least in my experience, I've literally had to stop myself from listening to things at 2 times the speed. One, I think it's helping my anxiety because, if you're having thoughts play into your ears at this really fast pace, you're going to think at a really fast pace and things are just going to go out of whack. But two, I think it's allowed me to slow down and actually consider what I'm thinking about or learning about. And I think I've actually made some pretty important changes along the way. You know, uh, they say slow and steady wins the race, the rabbit and the hare. Now, you could argue that it's sort of a situation where there's that one comic where you see the hare in the background getting ready for the race, and then the turtle is kind of behind this rock with another rabbit who's in a turtle costume, and the turtle is paying the rabbit money and saying, make it close but win. You could argue that that's sort of how things really are, but I would disagree. I think slow and steady wins the race. Just don't get caught up in the overwhelm. I did, and I stopped doing a podcast that I really enjoyed. I stopped having fun conversations with really amazing people. Well, partly, but that's another story. So, as you go about your day today, try and pick out one thing that you can actually do today. And try not to focus on anything else. Just do the one thing that you can actually change and improve today, and see how much better your life gets day in and day out. Again, thanks for listening. I know that I don't have too many listeners quite yet, but if you do want more content, feel free and share it, because the more people listen, the more I'm going to make this a priority. Again, this is, a journal for me, and maybe for my kids. Who knows? At the end of the day, I hope you are becoming your own hero. Thanks for listening. Until next time, may all your roles be criticals. This is Justin Willis, signing off.